Hello all, welcome to Paritranaya. In this class, we shall discuss about national emergency. So already in brief, we have discussed about the national emergency in the previous class, but here in detail, we shall discuss about national emergency. So we already know that national emergency is declared by President under article number 352 of the Constitution. So who declares it? President. So what are the grounds of declaration? We have already seen whenever the security of India or part of it is threatened by war or external aggression or armed rebellion, then President can declare national emergency. So we have already seen an example of war. So in a war with Pakistan, an example of external aggression, for example, China's aggression on India, and an example of armed rebellion wherein the Maoists will fight against our own army. Okay, so these are the examples. So President can declare national emergency even before the actual occurrence of these things. Okay, if he is satisfied that an imminent danger exists. So what does it mean? So war is not taking place, but President feels that, or through some secret information, President will get to know that in the upcoming days there will be a war with Pakistan. In such scenario also we can declare national emergency. Similarly, actually China is not attacking India, but President through some secret information gets to know that so in the immediate future China is going to attack India. There will be an external aggression. So when President is satisfied with such kind of information also, President can declare national emergency. Similarly, there is no armed rebellion presently, but based on some secret information which President has received, if he is satisfied that in the upcoming days there will be an armed rebellion from Maoists, then also President can declare national emergency. So here important point to remember here is actual occurrence is not a necessary condition, but even if President is satisfied that before the actual occurrence of such kind of situations, then also President can declare national emergency. Next, one more important. Different proclamations on various grounds. What does it mean? Whether it is possible? Yes. So it means in India, so one emergency we have already declared based on war. Already one emergency the President has declared on grounds of war. Can President declare one more emergency based on internal rebellion? Yes, it is possible. So there can be different proclamation of emergencies by President on different grounds, on various grounds. Okay, various grounds. Next, when it comes to external national emergency, the national emergency has been classified into two types. One is called as external emergency, one more is internal emergency. So whenever emergency has been declared on the grounds of war or on the grounds of external aggression, for example, when there is a war with Pakistan or when there is an attack by China, then we call it as external emergency. Or whenever we have declared emergency based on the fight that is going on between the Maoists and the army, so that can fall under an example of armed rebellion. So such kind of emergency which we declare, we call it as internal emergency. So what is the fundamental difference? In case of external emergency, India is fighting with the external entities, with Pakistan and with China. But when it comes to internal emergency, so India is fighting with its own people, for example, Maoists. So in such scenario, the emergency which we declare, we call it as internal emergency. Next, when we declare emergency, will it be applicable to whole of India or will it be applicable to part of it? Okay, very important. So when it comes to emergency, so it can apply to entire India or or while declaring emergency, President will say that it will not apply to entire India, but it will only apply to some part of India. Some part of India or entire India. Okay, entire India. So before 42nd amendment, whenever national emergency was declared, it used to get applied to the entire country. But through 42nd amendment, we introduced a provision with the help of which national emergency can be made to be applicable to certain parts of India. So this provision was introduced through 42nd amendment. So this 42nd amendment is not important. Here we need not memorize that when exactly such kind of provision was introduced through which amendment. So this 42nd amendment is not important from exam point of view. Okay, point of view. But here we need to understand that The national emergency, whenever it is declared, either it will apply to whole of India or it can also be applied to some part of India, So it is not necessary that the national emergency has to be applicable to entire India. Okay, entire India. Next, this 44th amendment is important. Why it is important? Because before 44th amendment, we did not have a term called as armed rebellion. Then what was the term present? Before 44th amendment, the term which was present was internal disturbance. Okay, internal disturbance. Then why did we change this term from internal disturbance to armed rebellion? Because during Indira Gandhi's era, the constitutional provisions were misused. Okay, using this word, internal disturbance. And Indira Gandhi declared national emergency. So subsequently, after that emergency got over, the next government which came, it thought that the internal disturbance is the provision which was misused. That is why this term was replaced by armed rebellion. So 42nd amendment here, it is not important, but when it comes to 44th amendment, it is important. So UPSC may ask a question like this. So through which amendment internal disturbance was replaced by armed rebellion? If at all it asks such kind of questions, then 44th amendment becomes very important. Okay, very important. Next, concurrence of cabinet, not PM alone, very important. So we know that president will declare emergency, but whether president has discretionary powers, whether president can declare emergency on his own, no. So someone has to advise. Who? Prime Minister. Prime Minister. Now the thing that we need to note here is whether Prime Minister alone can advise president. No. Before 44th amendment, if Prime Minister advises president, then president can declare emergency. But in 44th amendment, a provision was inserted. What was that? If Prime Minister alone recommends president to declare emergency, then it is not binding on president. So when entire council of ministers headed by Prime Minister write a letter to president, then itself it will be binding on president to declare national emergency. Okay, national emergency. So again, this provision was added through 44th amendment. Again, here also this 44th amendment is not important. So what we need to understand here is PM alone cannot recommend president to declare emergency, but the entire council of ministers headed by Prime Minister have to recommend it to president to declare emergency. Okay, to declare emergency. Next, we have already seen about judicial review. What is judicial review? Whenever any law is passed or any decision has been taken by the government, it can be taken to the court to just assess that whether the law or the decision that has been taken by the government adheres to the constitution or not. Okay, if the law or the decision taken by the government adheres to the constitution, then law or that decision will be upheld. Otherwise, that law or that decision will be rejected. So this is called as power of judicial review. So who has this power of judicial review? Both Supreme Court as well as High Court have the power of judicial review. Power of judicial review. Now the question is, whatever the decision the president has taken, decision to declare emergency, whether that decision can be challenged in the court. So that is the question here. Yes, definitely that can be challenged. So whether immunity exists from judicial review? No, there is no immunity from judicial review. Okay, it means whatever the decision of president to declare emergency has been taken, it can be challenged in court, that is in Supreme Court or High Court. Okay, from the point of judicial review point of view. Okay, point of view. In this context, we come across few important points like 38th Amendment, 44th Amendment, and Minerva Mills case. So these cases are to some extent important from the mains point of view, but nowhere in the prelims they will be asking you about the 38th Amendment, 44th Amendment, or Minerva Mills case and all. Okay, but in the mains answer writing, if you quote these examples, then it will be beneficial. Okay, it will be beneficial. So as and when we start writing mains answer writing practice, so we'll come across these points. For time being, this information is irrelevant. Okay, irrelevant. Next. Okay, next we shall see whatever the emergency that has been declared by president, how long will it exist? How long will it exist? Whether president's declaration is final or do we require approval of someone else? Okay, someone else. So very important. So we have seen that president declares emergency. It has to be approved by Lok Sabha and it has to be approved by Rajya Sabha. Very important. So whenever president declares emergency, it has to be approved by both Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha. So that's why we have mentioned here. So parliamentary approval, parliamentary is approval. So when I say parliamentary approval, it means Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha approval is required. Within how many days? Within 1 month. Okay, within 1 month. So previously it was 2 months, but now it has been reduced to 1 month. So this 44th amendment, what it did, it reduced from 2 months to 1 month. Okay, so this point is not important. We need not memorize this, or this is not important. Okay, so we shall only understand about the present scenario, that national emergency which has been declared by president, it has to be approved by parliament within 1 month. Within 1 month. So here let us assume president has declared emergency. President has declared emergency on January 1. January 1. Okay, 2023. So it means Lok Sabha has to approve it. Lok Sabha has to approve it. Similarly, Rajya Sabha has to approve it. Okay, approve it. Within how many days? Within 1 month. Within 1 month. Within 1 month. 1 month. It means if it has been declared on January 1, within what date they have to approve? So within January 30 or 31, they have to approve. Within January 31, Lok Sabha has to approve. Within January 31, Rajya Sabha has to approve. Rajya Sabha has to approve. So when they are approving, so with what kind of majority they have to approve? We have already seen different types of majority: simple majority, special majority, and absolute majority. So when it comes to approval by Lok Sabha and approval by Rajya Sabha, so national emergency has to be approved by what? Special majority. Special majority. And what is this special majority? We have already discussed in a separate class. So you can revisit that class related to majority and understand what is special majority. So here Lok Sabha has to approve the national emergency within 1 month by special majority. Similarly, Rajya Sabha has to approve the national emergency declared by president within 1 month through special majority. Special majority. Okay. So now, okay, on January 1, president has declared emergency. So within January 31, Lok Sabha has to approve it. Within January 31, Rajya Sabha has to approve it. Okay, approve it. So let us assume Lok Sabha approves on January 10. Deadline is January 31, but it has approved on January 10 itself. Similarly, Rajya Sabha, its deadline is January 31, but let us assume on January 11 it has approved it. Okay, it has approved it. So on January 10, Lok Sabha has approved the national emergency with special majority. On January 11th, Rajya Sabha has approved the national emergency with special majority. Okay, with special majority. Now once the emergency has been approved by parliament, that is both Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha, then for how many days will emergency exist? So from January 1 plus 6 months. Okay, 6 months. So once it has been approved by both the houses, then emergency will operate till 6 months. That is till June 30. Why June 30? Because January, February, March, April, May, June. Totally 6 months. Okay. So once emergency has been declared and once emergency has been approved by both Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha, then emergency continues to exist for 6 months. That is till June 30. June 30. Okay, June 30. So this is one scenario. This is one scenario. Another scenario is, let us assume. What is that? So on January 1, President has declared emergency. President has declared emergency. So deadline for Lok Sabha is January 31. Next deadline for Rajya Sabha is January 31. January 31. Okay, 31. Let us assume because of some reasons Lok Sabha is unable to meet and discuss about the emergency that has been declared. So let us assume deadline is January 31. But on January 10, let us assume Rajya Sabha approves the emergency with special majority. Let us assume on January 10, Rajya Sabha approves the national emergency with special majority. But Lok Sabha has not yet approved. Lok Sabha has not yet approved. Now, let us assume on January 15, Lok Sabha has not yet discussed about the national emergency. But on January 15, let us assume Lok Sabha gets dissolved. Lok Sabha gets dissolved. Then what happens to the emergency? Whether the emergency continues to exist or will it cease? So this is an important point to note. So on January 15, without discussing about the national emergency, Lok Sabha dissolves. So what happens to emergency? Now emergency will not cease, it continues to exist. Okay, it continues to exist. So how long it will exist? That is an important point. So let us assume once the Lok Sabha has been dissolved, then the new Lok Sabha will come only after elections. Only after elections. So let us assume somewhere on March 15th, after a completion of election, Lok Sabha, the newly constituted Lok Sabha will meet for the first time. So new Lok Sabha will meet for first time. Okay, first time. So from January to March 15, how many days of time has been elapsed? Approximately 2 months. Okay, 2 months. So in these 2 months, whether national emergency exists or not, in these 2 months, national emergency exists. Okay, exists. Provided in the meantime, Rajya Sabha has approved. So in 1 month period, Rajya Sabha has already approved. So it means, so national emergency continues to exist in these 2 months. So once the newly constituted Lok Sabha comes, that is on March 15th, it will be given a time of 1 month. Okay, that is from March 15 to April 15. April 15. It will be given a time period of 1 month. So within 1 month, Lok Sabha has to approve it. Okay, within 1 month, if Lok Sabha approves it, then the national emergency will continue till what period? Till June 30. Okay, June 30. So June 30. Now there are other scenarios as well. What is that? So national emergency has been declared on January 1. Rajya Sabha approves on January 10. Next, Lok Sabha rejects it on January 11. So what happens? It means whatever the emergency that has been declared by President has been approved by Rajya Sabha, but it has been rejected by Lok Sabha. Then what happens to emergency? After January 11th, whether emergency exists? No. So emergency ceases to exist on January 11. Okay, January 11. Very important point to note. So all these points have been discussed here. So as we discussed, so if Lok Sabha is dissolved before or after issuing without approval, then emergency continues to exist until what period? 30 days after the first sitting of the new Lok Sabha, as we discussed. Provided in the meantime, Rajya Sabha has approved it. Okay, approved it. So we also saw about the duration. What is the duration? So once the emergency has been approved, then it will remain in force for 6 months. Okay, remain in force for 6 months. Next, beyond 6 months, can we continue? For example, on January 1, I will declare emergency. So Lok Sabha also approves it, Rajya Sabha also approves it with special majority. Then it will continue till June 30. But if I want to continue the national emergency beyond June 30, will it be possible? Yes, it will be possible. So extension, it is possible? Yes, it is possible. So for every 6 months, you have to get approval of Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha. It means before June 30, let us assume on June 25, Lok Sabha approves it with special majority. Again on June 26, Rajya Sabha also approves it with special majority. Then national emergency can be extended beyond 6 months. Okay, for another 6 months. That is June 30 plus 6 months. Okay, 6 months. Then after 6 months, can we again extend? Yes, we can extend. In this fashion, we can extend the national emergency for indefinite period. So there is no limitation on the number of years for which the national emergency can be extended. The only provision is that for every 6 months, national emergency can be after every 6 months, national emergency can be extended, but it has to be approved by both Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha by a special majority. Okay, special majority. So this provision was added through 44th Amendment. So again, this is not important. You need not focus on this 44th Amendment. So here we shall only understand that whether national emergency can be extended. Yes, it can be extended for how many months? Again, for 6 months. Every time you extend it by 6 months. But how many times you can do this extension? Infinite times. Okay, infinite times. So these are all theoretical aspects. Practically, it does not happen like this. Okay, it does not happen like this. Next. Now we saw after 6 months. So if you want to continue the national emergency, and in the meantime, if the Lok Sabha has been dissolved, then what happens? Okay, what happens? Similar to the discussions that we made earlier. So if Rajya Sabha has approved, if it has approved, then what happens? The emergency continues to exist beyond 6 months. Beyond 6 months. But when the newly constituted Lok Sabha comes, from the first sitting onwards, within 30 days, it has to approve. It has to approve the extension. Otherwise, the emergency ceases to exist. So already we have seen whenever it is approval or continuance of national emergency, it has to be approved by special majority. Okay, special majority. Next, revocation. So what is revocation? Once we have declared an emergency, if you want to take back the emergency, if we want to withdraw the emergency, we call it as revocation of emergency. So who has this power to revoke? Very important. President has the power to what? Revoke. So proclamation of that revoking, or president can revoke the emergency. President can revoke the emergency. So whether parliamentary approval is required? No. When it comes to declaration of emergency by president, so parliament has to approve it within 1 month. Okay, 1 month. But when president is revoking the emergency, parliament's approval is not required. Parliament's approval is not required. Okay, this is one condition. Next, another special condition is, can someone force president to revoke the national emergency? Yes. Who can force? Lok Sabha can force. Very important. So Lok Sabha can force president to what? To revoke national emergency. Lok Sabha can force president to revoke national emergency. Can Rajya Sabha force president to revoke national emergency? No. Rajya Sabha cannot force president to revoke national emergency. Only Lok Sabha has that power. So how can Lok Sabha insist president to revoke national emergency? So Lok Sabha has to pass a resolution. Lok Sabha has to pass a resolution and ask the president to revoke the national emergency. So when Lok Sabha is passing the resolution, so we know whenever a resolution is being moved, then it has to be voted. So with what kind of majority Lok Sabha has to pass this resolution? Lok Sabha has to pass this resolution with simple majority. A very important point to note. Very important point. Why? Because we have seen when it comes to declaration of emergency, when president declares emergency, it has to be approved by both Lok Sabha as well as Rajya Sabha by special majority. But when it comes to revoking, president can revoke on his own, or Lok Sabha can force president to revoke it. When a Lok Sabha is forcing the president, then Lok Sabha has to move a resolution and pass the resolution with simple majority and not special majority. So when a resolution passed by simple majority is presented to president, then it is binding on president. So president should revoke national emergency. National emergency. Next, when can Lok Sabha pass a resolution? When it is in a session. When it is in a session. So when it is in a session, if it is not in a session, then otherwise let us assume two scenarios. One, the Lok Sabha is in session. When it is in session, then 1/10 members of Lok Sabha will write a notice to speaker. When Lok Sabha is in session, 1/10 members of Lok Sabha, 1/10 means 1/10 of 545, that is 55 members. If 55 members of Lok Sabha will write to speaker, then speaker will call a special sitting, and in that special sitting, they can pass the resolution. But if the Lok Sabha is not in session, we have already seen about session as well as recess period. So let us assume if the session, it's a recess period, that is Lok Sabha is not in session. In such a scenario, if Lok Sabha wants to force the president to revoke the national emergency, then also it can do it. How? So 1/10 members of Lok Sabha should write a letter to president and ask president to call for a sitting. And when 1/10 members present a request to president has to call a special sitting within 14 days. Okay, within 14 days. And within 14 days when it will be called, so all the members of Lok Sabha will gather in Lok Sabha and they will pass a resolution. And if this resolution is passed by simple majority also, then it will be what? Binding on president to revoke national emergency. Okay. So in this discussions, what we saw? We saw that national emergency can be declared by president. And next, when it comes to, and it has to be approved by both parliament, the parliament, that is Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha, with special majority. When it comes to revoking, president can revoke on his own, or if Lok Sabha presents a resolution which is passed by simple majority, then also it becomes binding on president to revoke national emergency. So in the next class, we will be discussing about the effects of national emergency. So for all our further updates, subscribe to our channel and hit on the bell icon. Thank you.